Doreen from Holistic Wellness from Within, and what I really want to do today is talk to you a little bit about my retest that I just got back. And I'm going to share my results with you, and I'm going to share kind of how I work with clients as well. So, on my test in March, which was the prior test to this, I was dumping a whole lot of metal. So, you kind of expect to see a lot of those metals come down, which is exactly what happens on this test. Nothing's dumping. That's not a bad thing. Also, when you're dumping a lot of metal, you tend to go into fast oxidation. Now, I didn't go into fast oxidation. On my prior tests down here, these numbers indicate that I was in a slow oxidation rate. However, I really believe that shortly after that hair was cut, probably, I did flip into fast oxidation because of the fact that my body was working really hard to get rid of metal. So that is actually a really nice improvement here. And it is very mild. As you can see down here, my calcium to potassium level is within a good range. And then the real thing that I'm going to be focusing on in a moment when I tell you how I help clients focus on the things we need to change or fix. Well, the first thing, it's going to be my adrenal activity here because it is quite high. And so my adrenals are overactive. So this is the first thing I really want to look at or focus on. When I come back up here, you'll see that before I was in a 4 high and now magnesium came down. I'm only in a 3 high. So that's an improvement. I'm out of a calcium shell. And I want to just tell you that this has been in the works for a while. I had a very, very high calcium shell. In fact, it was way higher than 193 where it was in March. But when I started really putting that K2 into my program, the vitamin D with the K2 that I use, I believe that product, the Valence D3, did start to help my calcium shell come down. Now, it is a stress reaction too, but I am working on managing stress. And what I saw was that it was a lot higher than 193, so it started dropping, and now it's dropped all the way down to 124. While that looks really high, it is much better than it's been in years. So I'm actually out of the calcium shell. And I do believe that it's a combination of some changes I've made in my lifestyle and certainly my supplement program that brought me out of that. I came out of the double high ratio. I did have a high calcium to magnesium and high sodium to potassium. I still have a high calcium to magnesium, which is the second item that I'm really going to focus on. I got two major points of focus I'm going to bring you around to understand in a moment. But the NAK ratio is better than it's been in years. I tend to have a high NAK ratio. Most people, many of my clients, I would say most of my clients have a low NAK ratio, but you can even see on the last test, it was at 8.62. It has even been higher than that, and it dropped all the way down to, well, or real good to within a normal range. So that is really encouraging for me. So I have the better NAK ratio. I did pick up a spiritual defensive pattern or lifestyle defensive pattern coming from this high calcium to magnesium ratio. And so I'll explain to you how I work with clients when I'm giving them this information. I came out of severe lifestyle stress, which is really great. That was another pattern I had. And then I tend to have these, very overactive adrenal stress patterns because I am type A. I was a single mom for a long time. All those kind of things have really added to the fact that my adrenals have really been overworking for a while. I did have a job in the fitness field where I worked out all the time, too much actually. So this has been a real life changer for me coming into this program. My burnout actually went down. It went from 6 to 3, which is honestly amazing because of the fact that, I actually picked up a couple poor eliminators. I'm not dumping as many metals, but I have a very nice burnout number. This is pretty low. And I have 7 great joy patterns. Now, when I started dumping those metals, I saw my phosphorus drop a little bit. That's kind of normal sometimes. And now it's starting to go back up. It's not perfect, but it is at 12, better than it was. I had a nice change in both the selenium and the chromium as well. So that was great. and zinc moved almost to what I like to call ideal, which is 16. So all of these have improved. Then when I come over to the metals, when your body has dumped a lot of metals, it then tends to settle down. And so I'm not upset that there's not one metal dumping on this test. Everything is resting or it hasn't moved. However, when they rest, they tend to armor a lot. I only had two metals go into armoring. One was copper, which had been dumping, and one was arsenic, which also had been dumping. So the body's now taking a rest. Those things are being sequestered. I'm not concerned about that. I have four metals actually dumping off and coming into a better range. I had dumped off manganese. It dumped off a little more. It's still within acceptable range. I got rid of quite a bit of lead. It dumped off nicely. Aluminum dumped off nicely from 100 to 0.72, and nickel dumped off nicely. So that's really, really amazing. I'm really happy to see all of those improvements. I have two metals coming up. Iron is moving upward, and so is mercury. The only thing that didn't move is cadmium. So I did pick up another pore eliminator. I think I picked up one extra one, but overall, this is a really great report. When I come down to my ratios, I pretty much did talk about all of these. So my focus here is on that spiritual defensive pattern and also the adrenal ratio being high, because that's telling me that my adrenals are overworking. So when I actually share, maybe give me just a minute to open this. When I share the graph that I share with all my clients, you will see that, okay, so it's not up there yet. Give me just a second. I promise to get it up right away as soon as, there it goes. So this is a graph I share with clients. And I'm really happy that also I have stayed out of sympathetic dominance, even though I didn't mention that. There's no sympathetic dominance. I came out of it on my last report and I've stayed out of it. That's a big, big change for me. I go into sympathetic dominance a lot. So when I would be helping a client with a report like this, of course, I'm going to give them the right supplements. But the other thing I'm going to mention is, hey, the spiritual defensive pattern here means that you're probably holding on to something you need to let go of. Now, I don't know what that thing is. It could be that you need to change a job or you need to make a big change, or it could be an attitude change that you need to make. So right away, when I saw this, I thought, what am I holding on to? And I am able, I've been on this program a long time. I find I have a lot of clarity. I kind of feel like I know exactly what this is. And a lot of it is just me not comparing myself with all the other practitioners, all the changes I see happening with mineral balancing, and knowing that I am on the path I am meant to be on. I will go over that more in another video. And then as I do that, you're going to see, or I'm going to see, less activation of the adrenals. They're not going to work so hard because right now, the constant thinking and holding on to this fear that I have and the things that that bother me, like I just mentioned, then it does create overactive adrenals. So those are the two big things I would be working on. I come down and I show my clients the patterns they have. If they had them before, they're in blue over here. And then I have more notes on their pages than I have on mine, but then I have an explanation for all the patterns that you see on here. So it's very, very helpful for all my clients to be able to see this and to be able to get a new approach, a new program, but also for me to help them figure out what we're looking at. I just did another report for a client yesterday, and the whole way through it, I was saying, look, this and this and this, I see this. It could be that you are experiencing, and I would throw out ideas. And then when we got to the information he sent over, which I actually go over with my clients, I saw a sentence that said, I just got a new job and it's really stressful. And so I said, man, I missed that when I was going through the first part of this video, but that explains where the stress patterns come from. What I want you to know is your body is adapting. It is surviving. So the things I see on here are telling me this is what's happening. If I can help you figure out where those things are coming from, then it is very helpful for you to be able to make the changes that you need to make. So thank you so much for listening, and please reach out if you would like to work with me at Holistic Wellness from Within.